Hello and welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION The World. I'm Jyotsna Kumar and this is Speed News. Let's begin. Protests erupted in Bangladesh capital Dhaka after the death of a prominent student leader of Bangladesh's 2024 uprising. Sharif Osman Hadi was shot and critically wounded a week ago before passing away in Singapore, where he was being treated. Hadi was a candidate in the February 2026 elections. According to a law enforcement official, a man suspected of killing two and wounding several others at Brown University has now been found dead in a New Hampshire storage facility. The development comes hours after the authorities said that the shooter will be caught and urged him to turn himself in. Australia's Prime Minister announced a national gun buyback scheme on Friday to get rid of high-powered firearms in the wake of the deadly Bondi Beach mass shooting. 15 victims killed after alleged father and son gunmen opened fire at people celebrating Hanukkah. And during a Hanukkah celebration at Bondi Beach in Australia on Sunday, this incident occurred. More than 10,000 people gathered in the streets of Sofia to protest against the government over corruption menace. The latest protest was sparked by the government majority attempt to bring the regular state budget drafted by the outgoing cabinet of Rasin Kerdyakov forward for debate and a vote in Bulgaria. Congressional Democrats released dozens of new images from the estate of late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein on Thursday. Democrats say photos aim to provide transparency into Epstein's network. The image includes scribbled sentences on a woman, ID cards, and a text thread. And this comes a day before the U.S. Justice Department is required by law to release unclassified files from its investigation of the disgraced financier. Now, Trump signed an executive order on Thursday that could reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug and open new avenues for medical research. The switch would move marijuana away from its current classification as a Schedule I drug alongside heroin and LSD. Cannabis would instead be a Substance 3 substance, scheduled as a 3 substance like ketamine and some anabolic steroids. Reclassification by the Drug Enforcement Administration could change how the drug is regulated and reduce a hefty tax burden on the cannabis industry. President Donald Trump urged Ukraine to move quickly on a deal to end Russia's invasion ahead of fresh talks expected in Miami at the weekend. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are likely to meet a Russian delegation in Miami this weekend to negotiate a peace deal. The Miami discussions follow 2 days of negotiations with the Ukrainian delegation in Berlin, in Germany. Aliens Higgins from Mali took office as Miami's mayor on Thursday, pledging to focus on competence, public safety, and to serve all residents regardless of political affiliation. Addressing the supporters, Higgins said that voters had chosen effective governance over political division and vowed to turn campaign promises into action. Higgins emphasized the need for faster, more resilient infrastructure as Miami faces increasingly severe weather saying the city must be prepared to respond quickly in emergencies. Seven people have been killed after a business jet crashed while landing at Statesville Regional Airport in North Carolina. Authorities say among the dead are retired NASCAR driver Greg Biffle, his wife, and their two children. The aircraft, a Cessna Citation C-550, went down about 72 kilometers north of Charlotte around 10:15 a.m. local time. The plane had been headed to Florida but turned back shortly after takeoff due to severe weather. Local media described drizzle and low clouds at the time of the crash. Photos from the scene showed a large fire on the runway with debris scattered across the area. Now, first responders rushed to the runway as flames burned near the wreckage.
Flowing from this way, it was way too low.
President Donald Trump asserted he does not need congressional approval to launch strikes on land against Venezuela. The statement comes amid mounting criticism that he is already exceeding his constitutional authority with attacks at sea. In parallel development, Brazilian President Lula da Silva has said he is willing to mediate between the U.S. and Venezuela to avoid armed conflict in Latin America. Lula said he has offered his help to the leaders of both the countries, adding that it would be better to sit down at the table. The U.S. will host talks in Miami on Friday, and this is to push the next phase of the Gaza ceasefire. Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff is to meet senior officials from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey in Florida. Now, under the second stage, Israel is supposed to withdraw from its positions in Gaza. An interim authority is to govern the Palestinian territory instead of Hamas, and an international stabilization force is to be deployed. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen told EU leaders at a summit in Brussels that the signing of a free trade deal with South American bloc Mercosur would be postponed to January, and this after farmers staged a show of force against the pact outside a Brussels Leaders Summit. Even as the European Commission wanted to have the pact to create the world's biggest free trade area sealed this week, the plan was thrown into disarray after Italy joined France in demanding a delay, seeking further protection for the farming sector. Colombian President Gustavo Petro has said that Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro should not give orders to Colombia's armed forces, and this as Petro rejected calls for military coordination amid rising tensions with the U.S. Petro emphasized that sovereignty and constituent national power must guide any military cooperation, asserting that Colombian troops remain under Colombia's command and not subject to foreign direction. In Portugal's capital, Lisbon, the Jewish community got together to celebrate Hanukkah in an open-air public ceremony secured by police officers on Thursday. Dozens of people attended the ceremony and paid tribute to the victims of Sunday's massacre in Australia. Now, the highlight of the Lisbon ceremony was the lighting of the fifth candle of Hanukkah. Bolivians were seen waiting in long lines at the gas stations and supermarkets in La Paz after President Rodrigo Paz announced the elimination of fuel subsidies after 20 years. President Paz said the details of the move would be laid out in a pending government decree. Members of the Trinamool Congress staged a 12-hour sit-in protest against the passing of the Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivka Mission Bill 2025, which is also known as the VBG Ramji Bill. The party members staged a sit-in protest in the parliament premises against the bill. The bill was passed in Lok Sabha on December 18, 2025 and subsequently cleared by the Rajya Sabha early on December 19th. Now, the passage was marked by protests from the opposition benches, with members objecting to the manner in which the government pushed it through. National capital Delhi continues to grapple with the double whammy of fog and toxic smog. The air quality remains severe, with flight operations impacted to adverse weather conditions. The foggy conditions are likely to continue for the next few days, as the Indian Meteorological Department predicted dense to very dense fog for major parts of North and Northeast India. In Maharashtra, a massive fire broke out at the Blue Roof Club in Thane on Thursday night around 10:30 p.m. local time. The fire reportedly erupted due to fireworks and was brought under control after a lot of effort, while no casualties were reported. Taiwanese tech companies Acer and Asus and China-based Hisense won a ruling from London's High Court in their global patent dispute with Nokia over video coding technology. The three companies obtained a declaration that a willing licensor in Nokia's position would agree to an interim license until the reasonable and non-discriminatory terms of a patent license were decided by the court. Judge James Mellor said the interim license would require the three companies to pay Nokia $0.365 per device sold. The rate is higher than the $0.03 per device proposed by Acer and Asus, but lower than the $0.69 sought by Nokia. Austria's Supreme Court has ruled that Meta's personalized advertising model is unlawful and ordered the company to provide users across the European Union with complete access to their personal data within 14 days of any request. The ruling requires Meta to disclose not just raw data, but comprehensive information about sources, recipients, and purposes for each piece of information, rejecting all of Meta's trade secret claims. The court said Meta illegally collected data from third-party apps and processed sensitive user information, breaching EU data protection rules. A coalition backed by big tech companies, including Google and Stripe, has agreed to pay $44.2 million for carbon credits from a Canadian company that aims to remove carbon dioxide from biowaste. Frontier, launched in 2022 by big tech's, aims to help scale carbon removal technologies by committing to buy credits in advance and thereby de-risking the projects and helping them grow more quickly. The group plans to spend $1 billion on credits between 2022 and 2030. The latest deal covers 122,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide to be locked away between 2026 and 2030. Asian markets rebounded on Friday, tracking a tech-led turnaround on Wall Street. This comes as investors brace for a potentially market-moving decision from the Bank of Japan. Markets are pricing in a near 90% chance that the BOJ will raise rates by 25 basis points, a shift that could ripple through currencies and bond markets. Sentiment was briefly lifted by a sharp slowdown in the U.S. inflation, though analysts warn the data may be distorted by the government shutdown. As a result, expectations for early Fed rate cuts barely moved, with March still seen as the most likely window. Any hint of more hikes could support the yen, but add pressure on Japanese bonds with yields already near multi-decade highs. Precious metals surge after softer than expected U.S. inflation and reinforced bets that the Federal Reserve will keep cutting rates. Gold traded near record highs while platinum extended a stunning rally, hitting its strongest level since 2008. Core U.S. inflation slowed to its weakest pace since early 2021, pushing traders to price in another Fed rate cut by April, with January still a possibility. Lower real yields will have boosted demand for non-yielding assets like gold, already up nearly two-thirds this year and heading for its best annual performance since 1979. Geopolitical tensions, including U.S. actions against Venezuelan oil shipments, have further strengthened safe haven demand. TikTok has taken a major step to avoid a U.S. ban after its Chinese owner ByteDance signed binding agreements to create a new U.S.-based joint venture. Under the deal, American and global investors will hold an 80.1% stake, while ByteDance will retain 19.9%. The new entity will operate the U.S. app as the independent company. Oracle, Silver Lake, and Abu Dhabi-based MGX will be key investors, with Oracle also serving as the trusted security partner responsible for safeguarding U.S. user data. While the White House has welcomed the structure, Democrats, including Senator Elizabeth Warren, have raised concerns over transparency and influence.